Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be telling you all about the Pokemon trading card game World Championship decks for 2019. They have been revealed, we do know what they are, so let's have a little bit of a look, shall we? Now, the obvious one, Henry Brand. He won the Masters division. Of course, he's going to get his deck printed. Now, when you buy the deck, you don't just get the deck. You get the deck. Obviously, you get the deck. Be a bit silly if you didn't get the deck. But you also get a booklet, deck box, a pin, and a code card. Now, the important thing to note, these cards are not tournament legal, which means for testing, for trying out decks, for playing with your friends, these are amazing. But you cannot take any of these cards to a tournament. They have grey borders rather than yellow. They are signed, or at least they have the signature of the deck pilot printed on them. They are not legal for tournament play. So it's really good for essentially proxying a deck, learning to play a deck, can't play it in a tournament. Of course, one thing that's very important to note, the rotation this year, for the first time, at least in a long time, happened before the World Championships. That means that all of these decks are 100% legal in tournaments right now. Once again, the actual cards you get in the decks are reprints and are not legal, but the decks themselves, if you got the proper cards, not the reprint deck cards, would be legal in a tournament. So they're really good, especially if you're newer to the game or you just want to try out one of these decks. They're a really good way to get these decks, play with these decks, without having to worry about spending lots of money for a deck you might not get on with. Then if you do get on with it, by all means, go and buy the deck. So there we go. They're also really fun for collecting purposes. I have many friends who are running around trying to buy the old World Championship decks, and they ain't as cheap as these are. As a side note, these are being released on November the 22nd, and they retail for $13. So Henry Brand, he won the Masters division. Of course he was going to get his deck printed. His deck is called Perfection, and it is all based around Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX has a lovely ability, Perfection, which allows you to copy the attack of any Pokemon GX, either in your discard pile or on your bench. It's really good. And then, of course, you play a whole bunch of different ones here. There are, let's say there's plenty of options. So you've got Naganadel to spread a bit of damage around. That's the new Naganadel GX, there's actually two of them. We've got Cobalion here to stop your opponent doing anything on their following turn. We've got Espeon and Deoxys, the brilliant GX attack that drops a bunch of damage counters, KO weak Pokemon on the bench. We've got Latios GX, which is immune to tag team Pokemon the following turn. We've got Macargo GX, who can do big damage, but can also discard the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. We've got Reshiram and Charizard GX, which is just good for really big damage, although it's also got an outrage attack. The more damaged you are, the more damage you do. And Solgaleo GX, that does a bit of damage while accelerating energy. You will notice here lots of different options, and like so many decks around at the moment, the deck really revolves around Welder, accelerating energy while drawing cards. Because these decks did well at the World Championships, the deck lists have been posted on Pokemon.com, which is how I can show you the full deck list for Henry's deck. Yay! Now, we generally get all 3 World Champions being printed. That has happened here. Kaya Lichleitner did get her deck printed. She won the Seniors division with Reshiram and Charizard. Now, there are actually 2 ways to play Reshiram and Charizard. One is all built around Green's exploration and not playing abilities. That was not the route Kaya took. She played the ability version of it, Dedenne GX, to draw lots of cards and get set up. Jirachi To use its ability when it's in the active, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it into your hand, it goes asleep. Stellar Wish is amazing, and then a skateboard gives you free retreat into the Pokemon you actually want to attack with, which is quite nice. And then Vulpix to drag a Pokemon off of the bench. Well, Ninetales evolves from Vulpix. Drag a Pokemon off the bench so that you can KO it. Saves you having to use custom catcher like everybody else, which is inherently unreliable because you've got to play both copies at the same time. It's a little bit awkward. The deck itself really just revolves around Reshiram and Charizard, piling energy on with the aforementioned Welder and smashing with Flare Strike. Now there are a couple of other cards here. Turtonator is a nice non-GX Pokemon and also not a fire type. Heatran GX can come out of nowhere. It attaches energy to itself from the rest of your Pokemon when it moves into the active, so it can be a surprise, and it does 50 damage for each energy on it. Drop it as a surprise, move the energy over, go and smash. And then there's one Victini Prism Star, another single prize Pokemon that does 20 damage for each basic energy in the discard pile. And you're discarding energy with Ninetales and when you're attacking, and it's a very nice attack. And then the other winner, which is the Junior Division Champion, Haruki Miyamoto, represented the other one of the big 3 decks this weekend, or the World's Weekend. It was Pikachu and Zekrom. And these really were the 3 big decks of the weekend, the 3 big Tag Team GX decks. Now, Pikachu and Zekrom has got the main attack here, Full Blitz, 150 damage, and you attach free energy from your deck to one of your Pokemon. Once you get 6 energy on a Pikachu and Zekrom, you do 200 damage to the active and 170 to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And you get this rolling really nicely using Thunder Mountain Prism Star to reduce your attack cost by 1, and Tapu Koko Prism Star to attach extra energy to your bench. The pair of them together, oh look, now you're attacking for a single energy. Very, very nice. And you would play Zera or a GX here, so that you had free retreat when you had lightning energy attached, as well as things like Dedenne. We talked about it before, it lets you draw cards. And there are extra tricks that lightning decks have. Electro Power lets you do extra damage, but you've also got Electromagnetic Radar here that searches out your GX lightning Pokemon. And Pokemon search was difficult in the Worlds format, still is, so it was really nice to be able to have this. Now this was actually the judge version of Pikachu and Zekrom, and the goal here very simply is judge as often as you can, put your opponent down to a new hand of 4 cards, and if they have a turn or two where they can't do anything, you can be hitting 150 while accelerating energy. If your opponent isn't doing very much, this game is not going to last very long. So the 3 division champions played the 3 big decks of Worlds. It was fairly obvious they were going to be printed. It was slightly less obvious what the 4th deck was going to be, but it is Blacephalon, which I believe was my prediction. Shintaro Ito's Masters finalist deck, Shintaro Ito's Blacephalon list. Now this of course is very interesting because Shintaro Ito actually got his Mega Ordino deck printed in 2016 when he won the World Championships. Nice to have multiple decks printed. This deck all revolves around Blacephalon. And Blacephalon, you lost zone as many energy as you like, fire energy from your field. You do 50 damage for each one lost zoned. You then use Naganadel to accelerate energy to itself, ready to lost zone with Blacephalon. And if your opponent has 3 or 4 prizes remaining, you've got Beast Ring to accelerate a bit of energy to you. And obviously the aforementioned Welder. And between those 3 things, you are not going to struggle to accelerate energy to you. Not even a little bit. We had one of the new Naganadel GX, which is pretty good at sniping the bench and taking out Pokemon that are sitting there on the bench, and a couple of the aforementioned Heatran as a nice surprise attacker. And being an Ultra Beast meant you had tricks like Beast Energy to do a bit of extra damage, and Ultra Space to search out your Ultra Beast Pokemon. This really does represent 4 of the big decks at the Pokemon World Championships. Honestly, the only other deck which I think was even in the running to be printed, and this is obviously just my opinion, but I could have seen Grant Shen, the runner-up in seniors. I could see their Gardevoir and Sylveon deck having been printed, but I think having 3 big Tag Team GX decks and then just a regular GX deck, that makes sense to me. I mean, no disrespect when I say this, but Isa Tessera's deck, the runner-up in juniors, was never going to be printed. It was Reshiram and Charizard. Now, it was the other version with Green's Exploration, but it's so similar to the deck that Kaya played. No. I know that if you're a seasoned player, there is quite a big difference between the Greens version and the Ability version, but if you're a new player going to pick up these decks, they just look like 2 slightly different decks based around Reshiram and Charizard. Or you won't even tell the difference at all. Nope, this makes sense. Good decks, good players, good choices, and like I've said, you get pin badge and deck box and all, but you also get these decks to go and play. Not tournament legal, but very nice for sitting around and playing with your friends. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, those are the world's decks, and I would like to know what you think about them. Also, shout out to PokerGuardian.com. Gave me a heads up they were revealed. Good website, you should be checking it out. Tell me what you think about these decks in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.